Thanks, Dan. The legal maneuvering over a court-ordered removal of up to 209,000 registered voters in Wisconsin is taking another twist. The Wisconsin Department of Justice today asked the state Supreme Court to put the original ruling on hold by Friday or direct a lower appeals court to consider doing so. Now, the increasingly convoluted legal battle is closely watched because of Wisconsin's position as a battleground state in the 2020 presidential election. Now, you may recall an Ozaukee County judge last month ordered the State Elections Commission to remove or purge people who may have moved from the voter rolls. Well, the lawsuit was filed by the conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty law firm. Democrats are fighting to stop that purge, saying it will unfairly impact their voters. UWL Lacrosse, that is, political analyst Tim Dale says there's a legal dispute because there are a couple of principles at stake in the case. First, he says, in a democracy, we want as many people to vote as possible. On the other hand, states have the right to validate voter registration while ensuring the integrity of the process.
And so removing voters from registrations who a state thinks might have moved is a way that a state tries to keep track of those voter rolls, but we don't want those kinds of moves disenfranchising voters, making it more difficult for them to vote. So the legal dispute here really is about two different principles: the right of a state to validate voters and the right of voters to vote. And so what the courts have to decide if these actions by the state are in fact a way to make sure that people are voting who should be voting, or if it is more important that the voters stay on the rolls to make sure that as many people vote as possible.
Now, there's another element to consider in this case: voter registration. Dale says it's important that voters remember, even if they're not on the rolls, they can vote.
So even if people are removed from voting rolls, even if they're not appearing on voter registration lists, they still have a right to vote in Wisconsin. So ultimately, an action like this wouldn't necessarily have an impact on actual voting turnout because everyone going to the polls has a right to vote who lives in the precinct and the state of Wisconsin.
Now, most of the 200,000 plus registrants that could be purged from the rolls come from Democratic areas of the state.